Hello and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast with Heather and John. Hey Heather, how's it going today?
It's going good. I feel refreshed. I feel rejuvenated. The sun is shining. I feel like it's spring and there's a spring in my step today for that.
Yeah,
How
I
about
know,
yourself?
absolutely. Yeah, I know, I'm with you. Actually, I was out early this morning. I went for a walk and it was nice just to be wearing a light jacket. Take like no winter boots, no winter jackets, no toques. It was so nice to be out this morning and enjoying actually as I was watching the sunrise come up. It was just
Oh my God,
so
that's
special.
so magical. That's magic. That's absolute magic.
Yeah, it's one of the things, and actually, I wish I lived closer to a lake. I know you're close to a lake to where you are,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's something like you said, magical around the water coming up, like the sun coming up over the lake, and just kind of seeing all of that come together. It's incredibly special. It wakes up your soul, right? Like I think we forget, especially in winter, because we're inside so much
Yeah.
that just waking that part of us up. This is why we love vacations. This is why we love beach vacations, right? Because you get to feel the sunshine, and I guess the
Well,
free drinks
and
too at the
here's
bar
here's
helps
the
too.
most magical part of all of that, John. It happens every day of our lives on this beautiful planet. The sun rises and the sun sets, and I just love honoring each day of my life with either a sunrise or a sunset, depending on where I am in the
Mm,
world. And the more often you can do that, I think the more gratitude you can feel in your heart and in your life. And it's funny that you say that water is your element. It's definitely my element, but people, some people are attracted to mountains, some people are attracted to water. So it's, the environment that really brings you alive. And I love mountains, but usually you're climbing them, so they can be a little bit challenging. But water, I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
yeah, no, I'm with you. I listen. I'm in the water at least 2, 3 times a week. So if I'm not a fan of water, I'm in trouble. So, but it's interesting that you talk about elements, right? So it's a reconnection to elements, and I'm glad you kind of touched on that because when was the last time you got outside to be in your element? And not so much for you because
Mm,
I know you go for walks along the water, right?
yeah,
Like this
all
is
every day. Yeah.
part of your practice. But for everybody else that's out there, you get so inundated. And I listen, it's so easy to get caught up in the day to day. And oh, I was thinking about a walk, but I'm not. I just don't have time for a walk, right? Connect with the elements around you. There's something. Actually, I did my gratitude video this morning in and around just being outside in nature and just experiencing health, right? Like how many people that are bedridden right now would love to be outside for a walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like it's something that we take for granted. And I think about all the people that can't do that, and that just makes me even appreciate it even more. So it's incredibly special to just be in those moments, right? Like just be. And we've talked about this too. Like just be present, because when you're there, your stress, your anxiety, everything just tends to fall away. So just
And
be
you
present
notice
in the
things differently. Like
moment.
when you're in nature, I find I notice things a lot differently. I'm much more aware of what's around me, the level of the water, is it higher or lower, what birds are out. My sister was over for a coffee the other day, and it was 5:30, and she said to her husband, "Oh, we should get bird feeders because I have bird feeders and they come often." And I said, "Oh, it's the Blue Jays will be here in about a half an hour." And she says, "You know what time the Blue Jays come?" I'm like, "Yeah, they come at 6 o'clock, like clockwork. And there's five of them that will come." And sure enough, guess what happened at 6 o'clock? Five Blue Jays arrived. And so there's patterns around us that we just don't notice
Mm,
until we actually spend the time to notice it. So those patterns of nature can actually help drive our own patterns of how we're feeling, our emotions. When we go outside, we go for that quick walk, we come back, wait a minute, now our environment, it looks and feels different, and we might have a new idea. We might get more creative. We might be able to tackle that project that's been a little bit harder. If you just try to muscle through it, believe me, that's the worst thing that you can do. If you're looking at a piece of paper or a project that's like overwhelming for you, get out, go for a walk, 10 minutes, come back, and see if it looks and feels the same. I guarantee you it won't. It'll look like a new idea has come to the surface. So that's how you get those ideas generating.
Yeah, and then I love that you talked about that, because we've also talked about this on previous episodes. Is really shifting that state that you're in, and
Hmm.
muscling through what you're trying to get through isn't going to make you more creative. Just because you're there, it's just this. I think about writer's blocks, right? And one of the things they tell you to do when you hit a writer's block is just keep writing until something eventually shows up. But I want to take it another, like, one step further. Move your body, right? As soon as you
Hmm.
can get into some sort of movement, you are instinctively going to know how to do something different.
That's
So
right.
some idea, something's going to pop up. You're going to see, like, I
Well,
think about my
and John,
videos.
that's why one of the writing techniques is, even if you don't know what to write, keep your pen attached to the paper so that your pen and your body are connected. So, I think to your point, add standing up, stand up and do that, but don't let that
Mm,
pen down. Get that body movement, and that gets your brain moving too.
yeah, no, it's so powerful, and actually, this comes back to what we were going to talk about today, which is really around communication. How do you communicate effectively? And sometimes when you're stuck in a moment, you can't communicate, or you're stuck in a thought. And that
Hmm.
ends up hurting the communication that you have, either with yourself, with the people around you, with your teams. So, one of the best ways to break out of a certain mindset, to break out of, I'm gonna even say it, a negative type of mindset, is to, move your body so you can communicate more effectively.
Well, there's
Right?
this
Like,
phenomenon. Yeah,
yeah.
there's a phenomenon that's happening, and it directly links to us saying, "Go get out for a walk." People are going into a new environment, and that new environment is the office space. They're returning to
Mm.
work, and there's an anxiety that's going with that. There's a, unknown that's going with that. We've been sort of working from home for a lot longer than we ever thought we would be, and people are returning to the office. And because there's this energy around returning to the office, there's some excitement, there's some good energy, but there's also this tightness that's coming with it. And then they're going to the office for sometimes just one thing. They're going to present to their boss, they're going to present to their teams,
Mm.
they're going to communicate an important message, but they're bringing this energy of tightness and, oh, I wonder what's going to happen into that environment. And both of you of us are shocked at how many people are saying they actually feel like they've forgotten how to
Yeah.
present, how to communicate, how to be effective, and because they've been so used to being on screen. So this is this. I get it. I definitely get it. And you actually experienced it. You were in person the other day. You're like, oh, this feels completely different. It feels good, but it's been a long time since I've stood in front of real people.
Mm. Yeah, no, and you're right. Actually, one of the things that's been showing up for me in conversations, especially over the last week, is really around people, going into an environment. I think there's still an anxiety and a fear for some around being around other people, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like, how do I, like, it just, we've been stuck behind screens for so long. Actually, for some of us, 3 years we've been stuck behind screens, not really interacting with people. And when you're in a room for the first time with others, it just feels different. Like,
Hmm.
it's like all that fear, the anxiety, everything that we've been conditioned and primed on over the last 2.5 years has really set us up to not be successful in this space, right? Especially when you're walking, like I said, like you said it, right? Talking to people, and they're presenting. Now they're back in the office, and I think there's been, and from what I'm reading and from what I'm seeing, is there's a big shift to get people back in the office.
That's right.
That's just a reality that's not going away. And listen, I understand, if you're a business owner, you're an organization, you have all the space, you want people back in that space, right? There's a way of communicating it and doing it effectively so you can get people transitioned over successfully. And maybe we'll save that for another episode. But it's really around getting to a place where you feel comfortable again. And I think this is the one thing that I've seen that people are struggling with. How do I get to a place where I feel comfortable speaking in front of my peers, right? And doing it in a way where, listen, I used to do it all the time. I was incredibly successful at it. I was able to influence and, get people and impact them in a really positive way. But it's like this wave that's just hitting them, and they're walking into these sessions overwhelmed. And
Overwhelmed.
then
Yeah.
overwhelmed. I Actually, that's the right word. Overwhelmed, because they're not sure It's like, if you haven't been on a bicycle for a very long time, the first couple of pedals of the bike, you're going to be like, am I going to fall over if I hurt myself? So it's like getting back on the bike, right? And just being comfortable with it.
And I don't think we've taken into account all of the changes that you're dealing with in that one moment. So I'll just use me as an example. When I'm going into an office space to talk to people, I'm not wearing track pants, obviously, into those places. I'm wearing proper business attire. I'm wearing heels, and I'm not wearing heels at my house. So, even down to what I'm wearing is not the normal thing that I'm wearing. And so there's this anxiety around that. Then there's anxiety around, the routine, driving into work, dropping off the kids, bringing a lunch again. Like these are all things that stack up into anxiety driven moments that then cause people to not be at their best. And, I think it's important to know oh my goodness, those are the things that are stopping us from being effective communicators and stuttering at the same time. But there's ways to counteract this. And we want to talk about those ways, because if you're feeling like this is actually very, very normal. And so many people, even top-notch speakers, are having these anxiety feeling moments. And so we want to normalize it. We want to say you're not alone. And we want to talk about, how do we actually get back on that bike? How do we actually get you riding that bike and feeling strong and powerful, and all of the things that effective communicators are. And so, John, I know that we've got we're not just talking about this on today's session. We actually want to go deeper with our audience, and we're going to do that on the 27th with a full webinar dedicated to effective communication, how to master it, and including how to do it with your body, how to do it with your voice, how to do it with storytelling. So if this is something that you want to be better at, and believe me, who doesn't want to be better at speaking? I always want to be better at speaking, because this is our tool, right? As leaders, our voice is our tool. Our storytelling is a tool. So think of it. How do you sharpen your knives in your toolbox? This is how you do it. You come to our session. So John, why don't you just say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, before I get into that, I want to just highlight a comment that just came through. Somebody saying, "Wow, serendipity. These themes have been emerging all week over here." Also, I recently got back on the bike, right? So, listen, this is what's happening. So people are no longer behind the screen presenting, and actually, you can still present effectively over a screen. It's a little bit different, but when you're in the room, you get to see faces. It's a different, person. I love being in the room with people, because I get to see their energy. I get to see their expressions. I work off of those expressions. I build on the momentum within the room. And what we're going to be doing on the 27th is really getting you back to a place where you feel confident being back in front of people, where, we're also going to touch a little bit on, presenting on video too. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, how are you walking into the room? How are you really showing up? Right. And we talked about states. You talked about states earlier today in this call, but bringing yourself to a state where you show up confidently before you step in the room, before you craft your message, before you deliver value to that audience, which are all pieces of what we're going to be talking about on the 27th. So, I'm super excited that we're going to be doing this, because I know this is something that's been showing up for people. People are struggling with just getting back in front of people, even seasoned speakers who've been out of, I'm part of a speaker community, so I get to see what speakers are doing all the time. And they're telling me it feels so different being back in the room. It's like they're at the onset of their career, they're getting back into the room, they're communicating and delivering messages and talking to people, but they're not doing it from a place where they're overly confident. Like they go in with that nervousness. They have all the technical, and we're going to touch on a little bit of the mechanics of speaking, but it really comes down to how they're showing up internally. And we've touched on this.
It comes down to the meaning that we're putting on it. We're feeling, because we feel the difference in energy, and then what do we do with that energy? How do we put it into our body so that it powers us up and it puts our shoulders back and our chin up, and we take some deep breaths of this good energy? But what's really happening is people are starting to shrink down and they're like, I'm not sure. And they're sort of like on edge and, keep your distance and all of this is happening. So it comes down to the meaning we put on it and the meaning of, I'm going to walk into this room powerfully and share some amazing information that is going to wow this audience. That's a whole different meaning than, oh, I wonder who I'm going to see. I wonder where I'm going to sit. I wonder. So we want to take the wonder out of effective communication and give you the tools that you need to be confident. John, I've been on video now for 3 years, just like you said, and it keeps happening to me. And I laugh every single time I walk into rooms and people say, wow, you are really short because I don't look short on video. I look the same size as everyone else, but I'm only 5 feet tall. And it's funny that they mention that because they've pictured me a certain way and then they actually see me. But imagine if you took that as, oh my God, I'm not enough. What if that was what the meaning is that I put on it? I would instantly get even smaller and shrink more. But actually what I put as the meaning is I must have presence on the video calls that they're seeing me on to think that I'm taller and bigger than I am. So I actually grow when I hear this comment. And that's just a meaning story. That's just the meaning I put on it. I could have gone the other way and it could have actually been detrimental to my career to hear it because it happens every time I walk in a room these days. Yeah. So, what is the meaning that you're putting on your situation, your presentation, your communication style? And let's just shift it slightly and make it powerful for you.
Yeah, no, I love that. The story. What's the story that you're telling yourself before you even show up in the room? Mm-hmm. And I've been hearing from people, they're telling themselves, I'm not good enough. It's been so long. Do I even know how to do this? Imposter syndrome starts to kick back in. It's like, was that really me before? Is it still me now? Like, can I do this? And these are some of the things that we want to address through this webinar on the 27th, where we're going to be sharing, really getting into those insights, into the tools to get you to a place where you're going to be like, yeah, I am meant to be here.
Yeah. And we coach people all the time on this individually as well, but we're going to share those tips in the webinar. Now, I have the call to action, John. I think this is really important because we see this coming up. I don't think it's a conversation that people are easily having. So if you are a leader, if you are, you have peers at work, ask them this question. Are you feeling some anxiety around either a presentation that's coming up, speaking in public, returning to the office? And if the answer is yes, great. Why don't you invite them to join us all on the 27th? Come and learn together, because when people learn together, then you can take that away and actually hold each other accountable. And that's how, me and John, we want to positively influence 1 million people this year. And the only way to do that is to have you teach what you learn from us and have that ripple effect just cascade throughout the whole world. So that's what we're looking for. So ask that question at work. Ask it for the people that you are comfortable with, and then decide to learn together. We'd love to see all of you on the 27th.
Yeah. No, there's something about the power of groups, right? And having an accountability partner. If you're in an office space, right? If you're in an office space, I would even invite you to collect in a room, get together, maybe, 2, 3, 4 of you all together watching through this, and then asking yourself, is that something that we can do together? Can we hold ourselves accountable to each other as we go through this? And are there things that are cues for us to remind each other of how to show up powerfully? Because sometimes all it takes is one person to say, I remember what we heard. Yeah, if you just do this one thing, you're going to be a lot stronger as you present. You're going to feel more confident as you present. So, I'm super excited about bringing that together and sharing it. Because listen, people are saying it. It's the serendipity for some. But just to have that conversation, just to be able to share some insights, like you said, our mission is to impact 1 million people this year. And one of the great ways to do that is to really take this webinar and share it with everybody. So I'm super excited. So I'm going to include the link below. It's already listed on our profiles. And if you want, just register and you'll get notified when the event is live as well. I believe you'll get a reminder, but we'd love to have you there and just be a part of this with us. So it sounds like the call to action's out there. determine, is this something that's happening within your team right now? Is it something that you're feeling? Is it something that others are feeling? And if it is, bring them all together. Let's do this. Let's do this. Uh, so excited. We get the opportunity to practice our public speaking 3 times a week at least online. And we'd love to have others join us and be a part of this journey and this.
And this honors what we do, John. It says, say yes to the stuff that scares you. So remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. So let's shift together on the 27th and learn how to be confident communicators. With that, let's call it. And we will see you guys all on Friday at 8:40.
All right. Take care, everybody.